được đâu. Ăn nói
Như khi nói tại sao không thưa không.
Bây giờ là mình xuống sa mạc hả?
Dạ đi ra sa mạc, cái chỗ này
Cát
đi lắm.
Trắng, gọi là sa mạc Cát Trắng.
Rồi giới thiệu sa mạc đi.
Gọi là quay sen. Không con biết nghiện đâu. Mà cái này là nổi tiếng, mấy cái người mà nhiều nước trên thế giới người ta đều đổ về đây để người ta coi cái sa mạc đó. Cái ke nó trắng mịn lắm, cát của nó rất là mịn mà nó nhiều mà nó trải dài, thật dài luôn. Là nó cỡ mấy chục cây số của mình đó. Chứ không phải vừa. Mà mịn lắm, mà rờ cái cát mịn vào đút cái chân vào xuống dưới đó, nó mềm, nó mát lượng mà buổi tối ở đây mà mình ngay ngày rằm mà thấy ông trăng cú thiết là bừng mà đẹp lắm. Cái chỗ người ta ngắm trăng luôn. Nhiều người trên thế giới tới đây lắm.
Bởi con trai và con dâu của con mà. Con trai cô báo về là mẹ đi mấy cái mừng lắm. Rồi con nó mẹ.
Trẻ khó đi, người lớn tuổi dễ đi. Bà đi theo sư, bà đi theo sư mới được dễ.
Tao có biết như người mù đi theo.
Mà đi theo sư cũng phải người lớn tuổi nó mới cho dễ đi. Bây giờ mấy người trẻ mà nói gì đi chung với sư nó vững bát rồi, nó khó. Dạ.
Là nó khó.
Vô thầy này rồi này. Nhanh vậy hả? Mình cũng đụng duyên quá hả?
A land in constant motion, dynamic and ever-shifting. Here, natural forces play out before our eyes on a journey that turns rock to dust. Where evolution moves in fast forward. And life adapts or disappears. All of this unfolds in one of the world's greatest wonders, White Sands National Monument. A vast dune field, blinding in the midday sun. Soft and textured in the early morning and evening light. Never the same twice, but always a shade of white. 275 square miles of sand, and none of it is the typical darker quartz variety found in most other dune fields. It's made of gypsum, the same white material used in plaster and drywall. Here, gypsum is the key building material, and it shapes everything that lives within its boundaries. White Sands is the largest gypsum dune field in the world, an island of white surrounded by the vast Chihuahuan Desert. In a world of white dust and sand, most animals' chances of survival improve if they blend in. Many animal species at white sands have become lighter colored, avoiding detection and staying cooler in the hot sun.
White sands is one of the best examples in the entire world of the process of adaptation. In the surrounding desert in New Mexico, most of the animals are dark to match the dark environment. At white sands, many different animal species have evolved to become white to match the dunes. This is most obvious in some of the lizard species, which you'll notice are very light in color and that they match their background very well. A few thousand years ago, when the white sand dunes formed, lizards would have come into that new environment and they would have been dark. The darkest lizards would have been eaten by predators, and the lighter lizards would have survived better and passed their genes along to the next generation. Over time, the lizards evolved to become lighter and lighter, until we have what you see today. The reason why this is so exciting to me as a biologist is that it gives us a window into the process of evolution, and it allows all people to see evolution in action.
It takes a perfect combination of water, wind, and other conditions to create white sand's dune field. The key ingredient, gypsum, comes from the surrounding mountains, which are rich in the mineral. Snowmelt and rain dissolve the gypsum and wash it into mountain streams. The gypsum-infused water runs down the mountainsides. Then from the mountains, it flows to the lowest point in the monument, Alkali Flat and Lake Lucero, on the western edge of White Sands. When this water evaporates, it leaves the gypsum behind in the form of selenite crystals. The crystal is softer than a human fingernail and easily splits apart. This is where the gypsum might come to rest if it weren't for another force that shapes white sands, the wind. In the spring, it often blows hard from the southwest. And when it reaches 15 to 17 miles per hour, it picks up any gypsum the size of a cornflake or smaller. Like bumper cars, the gypsum pieces bounce, roll, and slam their way northeast. They start out coarse. As they tumble, they break into smaller and whiter pieces, and then end up as fine grains, almost as soft as talcum powder. Pushed by the wind, grains of gypsum sand pile up into dunes, which move across the desert like waves.
One of the surprising things about white sands is how young they are. Most of the dune field formed between 4,000 and 7,000 years ago. Geologically, that's almost like yesterday. In comparison, most of the southern New Mexico landscape is 500,000 to 1 million years old. So almost the entirety of the dune field formed in a very short time, less than 1,000 years. During a time of high temperatures and accentuated drought, it's been very dynamic, with a wide variety of new dunes forming and being destroyed over the last several thousand years, and they're still forming today.
Newly formed dunes, exposed to the wind, can advance 38 feet in a year. At the other extreme of the dune field, dunes on the outer edges creep just inches, anchored in place by plants. At the heart of the field, dunes move about 12 to 15 feet a year. Here, sand rides up the windward side until it reaches the crest, often rising 60 feet from the floor. As the dunes advance, they swallow up everything in their path. To survive, plants must adapt to the dune's constant movement. Grasses grow quickly, and before they're covered by the dunes, scatter seeds that winds carry to other open areas. Dunes can engulf stationary yucca plants. To stay above the surface, they grow a longer stem. They stretch as the dune rises. There might only be 10 feet of the yucca showing on the surface, with another 30 feet running down into the dune. But when the dune moves on, the yucca can't support its long stem and collapses. Another strategy is for plants to build their own structure in the shifting sand. Sumac creates shaggy-topped pedestals out of the gypsum. Its roots draw water up through the soil. Gypsum around its roots hardens like the base of a statue. It creates a stable home for the sumac and a microhabitat for animals. Burrow interiors can be 30 degrees warmer than the dunes in winter, and 30 degrees cooler in summer, when temperatures can soar to over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Sheltering during the day, most of White Sands animals come out when it starts to cool. We rarely see these animals, just evidence of their comings and goings, or a brief sighting of the most secretive at dawn and dusk. With nightfall, the desert is transformed. It becomes another world, which most of us only glimpse when a kit fox or other animal strays close enough to trigger a remote camera. All of this life depends on one thing: water. In late summer, moisture-laden clouds build along the surrounding mountains. Some push over the top and into the basin. Thunderheads roll across the monument. Scattered showers grow into downpours. This is known as monsoon season. Still, rainfall averages less than 10 inches per year. What makes White Sands different from most other deserts is that it holds onto much of this water. Surrounded by mountains, White Sands is at the bottom of a basin shaped like a bathtub with no drain. So rain and runoff flow to the lowest area, Lake Lucero and Alkali Flat. At the wettest times of year, there's standing water in the middle of the desert, and Lake Lucero briefly refills. 11,000 years ago, a much bigger lake known as Lake Otero covered this area. Life was drawn to its waters. These are raised mammoth tracks, left thousands of years ago when the animals walked through clay to reach the lake, long before the dunes formed. And today, living reminders of this lake appear whenever there is even just a puddle in the desert. Add water, and from out of the sand, brine shrimp emerge. Their eggs may lay dormant on the desert floor for dozens or even up to 100 years, waiting for the water to return. Beetles, tadpoles, and larvae appear in the water as well. They attract hunters. ducks and shorebirds feast during this brief period of plenty. After the rains stop, the lake and puddles dry up. But even in the driest months, there's water just feet or even inches below the surface at White Sands. Native Americans knew how to find it.
This was Apache land. Mom always said and Dad always said that water is abundant here. But it's just that you have to know what to look for. You dig a hole. The water will seep up at night. So in the morning when you rise, the water's there that you can drink.
When the water table is high, the grass can grow thick and green. Several tribes of Indians, including the Mescalero Apache, gathered seeds and plants throughout White Sands. But when the first Spanish and Mexican settlers arrived, they rarely ventured far into the dune field. And in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, cattlemen built ranches in the grasslands on the edge of the dunes. They dug wells and constructed cisterns to support as many as 8,000 head of cattle. But overgrazing and drought killed off the grass, bringing this era to an end. Shortly after, President Hoover established White Sands National Monument in 1933. The primary mission of the National Park Service is to be the caretaker of special places like White Sands, passing these resources on to future generations.
I look at White Sands as being an experience that you have to respect what is given to you. When Apache people came into any location, they used what was needed. And when they left, it looked like there was no one there.
For thousands of years, White Sands provided Native Americans with physical and spiritual sustenance. Today, it still inspires awe. Forces that shape the land, plants and animals, have the power to fire the imagination and transform us. White Sands, a natural wonder unlike any other on Earth, protected by the American people for all to experience and explore.